Hi, everyone. Hey, so thrilled to have you all here. This is super, super exciting for Open Influence, and we're thrilled with all the guests and our guest speakers here. So I know we did a very quick intro with Jen. I just want to take a minute for the folks here on this amazing panel to introduce themselves and give you a 30-second overview of their background. We're going to be talking about how PR and marketing are working together to kind of solve client problems and deliver strong influencer marketing strategies and how that space is really shifting. So, Scott.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well this morning. My name's Scott Madden. I'm the digital director for the West Coast at Golin, formerly known as Golin Harris. A little background on me, I actually started kind of on YouTube on 2011 with a company called movieclips.com, really working in the CMS, bringing UGC kind of to the forefront. If you guys remember on YouTube, you used to put a video with a song or a movie clip and it would get taken down, and we were kind of the first company to really change the way brands look at UGC and really monetize content on digital. From there, worked kind of in the forefront of influencer marketing before it was ever coined influencer marketing, and have really worked on production, building YouTube franchises for different brands before coming to where I am, Golin, where I work across a lot of CPG brands, doing everything from digital strategy, content production, PR, and influencer marketing.
Hi, I'm Jenny. I am currently a consultant, and I'm on the board of directors for the Influencer Marketing Association, which is about to launch, so keep an eye out for that. At my last role, I was a senior vice president and the director of influencer marketing at Edelman in Chicago. I started the influencer practice there in 2015 and scaled it across the world for Edelman. I've been working in PR, mostly in digital and influencer marketing for the past 9 years. I teach influencer marketing at the University of Chicago, DePaul University, Northwestern University. I've been working in digital communications for almost 19 years, which means I'm old, like Brian, who I know really well. And I'm so happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Amy. I have a unique path to get here to this stage. I spent the beginning stages of my career at CNN. I was 10 years in the newsroom and about 5.5 years in program and talent development and acquisitions, creating pilots and shows for CNN. And I took a brief stint to go to the weather company on the digital side to be managing editor of digital video content. And about 4 years ago, made the leap to agency life and PR life for Weber Shandwick. I am based out of Atlanta. And I kind of fell into influencer marketing, I think because of the weird mixed bag of storytelling digital tricks I came to the agency with. And I have led portfolio, brand-wide influencer marketing for IHG and a ton of other types of brands, everything from TIAA, Bank of America, to Powerade, and all kinds of other things in between.
Thank you, guys. I'm excited about this panel. It's a very multifaceted group here. What I love is they really embrace the topic of this panel, which is, you know, they're not strictly PR professionals, they're not strictly digital strategy. They really have all touched on all different facets of marketing. So I think we'll get some really great insights. If anybody does have questions following the panel, definitely grab these guys during the break. They're more than happy to chat with you. So just to kick things off, I also have a PR background. I started at Ketchum, and one thing that is, you know, to keep in mind is that influencers are not a new thing. It's certainly evolving very quickly, but they've been around since advertising and marketing really first started. It started with media journalists and TV executives and celebrities, and, you know, PR professionals were pitching stories, kind of crossing their fingers and waiting for that story to come out and hoping it was good. And now with the emergence of influencer marketing, the brands have a lot more control over the message and the storytelling and who they ultimately decide to work with. So as part of that, I think one aspect of PR that remains prevalent and super important when it comes to influencer marketing is brand perception and really brand protection. You know, it's a space with a lot of eyes on it. We're all on our phones, we're all scrolling. So I'd love to talk, you know, Jenny, I'd love to chat with you a little bit more around how that brand protection comes into play and will always be prevalent, and why PR is so important for that. You know, if we look at James Charles or Logan Paul and things that arise are a bit out of our control.
Absolutely. So the story of my career actually answers that question. I've done the same job at agencies all the way from advertising, where I first started, to marketing communications companies, experiential companies, word-of-mouth marketing companies, content agencies, to PR. So really the same exact job, just at different agencies that had different focus. And I like to say that, in the early, I think it would probably be about 2008, 2009, when everyone wanted to get into social media, I led all the social media and digital for General Mills. And they'd come to me and they'd say, we want to start a social channel for Nature Valley granola bars. And I said, well, okay, why? And they said, because we have to be there. And I said, okay. And then we want 1 million fans. And I said, well, why? What are we going to do with them when we get there? And there became this grab in the late 2000s, early kind of 2010s and 11s, where everyone wanted to be on social. They didn't know why they wanted to be there. But everyone, whether it was advertising, whether it was the content agency, when it was the PR agency, they were all fighting for the same thing. It was like rock'em sock'em. And they all had a very specific reason for wanting to be in that space and to own it. Advertising said, we own the brand, so we should own their social, because social is just an extension of the brand. No one goes to our website anymore. People go to social because they can have a dialogue. Content said, well, content's king. So, if it's content and that's what social is, we should own that. And even the paid media agencies said, well, content without distribution's queen if content's king, so we should own it. And then PR said, okay, but what happens when something screws up? And what happens when, someone you're partner with goes rogue? There weren't a lot of rules and regulations at that point. There were not a lot of airtight contracts the way they are now. And, in the end of the day, and I'm totally biased because I've been working at PR firms for the past 9 years, PR won. There's been some majorly messed up stuff that's gone on with digital content creators in the social space. And when it comes to your brand, your reputation, how you're out there in the world, what happens when something screws up? You go immediately to your PR firm. United's a great example. Edelman represented United when all that went down a couple years ago. That we were their first call in the middle of the night. When something goes wrong, you want your PR firm to stand up, put together a plan, represent you, and the same happens with digital influencers. They're people, and they have opinions, and they're not hired actors that, you literally script and they recite, so they're real humans, and they can, go off contract, go rogue. They can have real life things happen that they make missteps, just like you and I. And at the end of the day, PR is in a really, really good position to protect the clients, protect the brand, and have a really strong kind of go-to-market strategy for how we're going to kind of protect that consumer trust that PR has helped build for brands that we work with.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't agree more. I think that protection is super key, and that actually is a perfect segue because at Open Influence, we're lucky enough to work with such a variety of different agencies. We work with advertising agencies and media buying and digital and PR, and so I think influencer marketing really permeates all of those spaces. To your point, there's not really clearly defined roles of who owns what, but the most successful campaigns are really a cohesive effort between those teams. It's not just one team going at it, it's taking into account the digital strategy, the marketing, that brand protection from PR, and the relationship building. So Scott, as digital director at Golin, I'd love to hear how your team really collaborates with both agency partners and the account teams to really have that well-rounded approach to influencer strategies.
Yeah, so at Golin, we kind of look at PR as digital these days. People, when you think of PR, people think of kind of the people who, the kings of spin, so to speak, and PR has really become a digital effort. It's no longer just trying to get, an ad in Men's Health magazine because magazines are dying. And really what we try to do when we're building a digital strategy is really work hand in hand because we don't own all of the aspects. Like we do sometimes the content, sometimes we're doing content influencers, sometimes we're doing just the PR, the media, the earned media. So we're really looking at what are all the assets we have to work with, what channels are actually going to move the needle for this brand. If we're doing influencer marketing, what is the purpose of those influencers? Because I think influencers aren't just they don't just have a singular purpose anymore. You know, there's influencers for massive brand awareness for a product launch. There's influencers to do more grassroots approach. There's influencers to use to drive, you know, purchase there's really like a lot of ways we have to work with the different agencies, and really what we're trying to do is not just what we think we would do, but really what's best for the client. And in the digital aspect, it's about looking at every single channel they have at their disposal. And being a PR company, we have kind of an interesting look at it because, like she was just saying, you know, people do trust their PR firm to protect them. We are the first, you know, McDonald's is one of our longest clients. We've had them for 65 years, and as everyone here knows, you know, McDonald's isn't exactly always the best looked at brand. There's something always happening in the news with them, and you know, they look to us on a digital strategy. If there's a PR nightmare, how do we get the word out on a digital aspect, because that's going to actually make waves much faster than just holding a press release. And that's kind of what our team looks at. We're just looking at, you know, how do we go to market, but also if we go to market and it screws up, how does the digital strategy protect us in the long run?
I would just jump in and say on the reputation part of it, to give a specific example, I had an influencer we were working with for an IHG brand, and they do mess up. The influencer went to the hotel. We had a certain contracted number of posts. They arrived a day early. They had asked us for that, but we watched them all the time. And said person got on the yoga ball where you could see the brand's logo and started twerking. It was erogenous and not appropriate for the brand whatsoever. But it
Definitely off brief.
Definitely off brief. They said, oh, well, it's not part of my contracted posts. Well, you're at the hotel, we're paying for you to be there. Well, I didn't tag the brand. I didn't use your hashtag. No, but I can see the logo. It's inappropriate. So being the PR agency, we were smart enough to be following it, to see it before the client saw it, to already have a POV, tell the client, here's what we're doing. It did take us an entire 48 hours to get them to take it down, working with lawyers and all of the things, but that's just one example of dealing with a situation.
Yeah, it does require a very hands-on approach. You know, it's the monitoring, it's not just making sure your post goes up okay, it's making sure that the content that is surrounding it still maintains that authenticity that the brand is going for. And I think it goes back to that influencer selection process, which is so key to the success of bringing a story to life. And it's you know, in traditional PR, it's a lot of earning media, pitching journalists, and then there's strictly buying media, you know, paid partnerships with BuzzFeed and Tastemade, and influencers kind of fall in the middle. It's a relationship, but it's also, you're not throwing product at them and fingers crossed that they post right. It's no longer paid for play. And Amy, you had said this in our earlier conversations, you really have to earn their trust and the right to leverage their audience. So tell us a little bit about how you guys are doing that.
Well, there's sometimes when a brand will just assume I have an influencer program and I can get whoever I want, I'm paying. But there are influencers who will turn you down and they say, no, thank you. I don't want to work with that brand. I've never stayed at that hotel. I don't really like that product. Or it's just not relevant to my audience. They can see and they know what really works. So maybe the ask that you have of them is not exactly something that they feel like is going to work for their audience. Or they think about it and they say, what is my audience going to learn from this? What are they going to take away from this? This is just me hawking a brand. Like, they're not going to walk away feeling like they are more empowered, that they want to keep following me. They're going to lose that trust in their audience for sure.
And you can tell, right? Like when an influencer partners with a brand and they develop content and you're looking through their stream and it sticks out like a sore thumb, you know that partnership didn't quite fit.
Yeah, someone told them exactly what to do, and they said yes, and then you just kind of squish your face and go, I kind of think a little less of them because they took the money.
That's exactly right. And
so
it's
I
happening
appreciate
more
the
and
ones
more.
who sometimes do say no, and then you have to go back to the brand and say, they said no.
And those are the ones you usually want to work with because they actually
Yes.
know who they are, what they stand for, so you don't
Yes.
get a situation like the woman who played Wonder Woman who was doing a Samsung promotion, but it said on Twitter, like, posted on her iPhone. Like, and that's when things can kind of bite you in the ass, so to speak.
And the brand outreach too. Like, if you're not authentic in the way that you're outreaching to them, in the Gen Z people might just screenshot that and put that up. Look at this, like, brand and the way that they outreach to me, they don't know me, they don't know you, and you'll get called out for that too.
Yeah, I think being inauthentic these days is worse. Is probably one of the worst mistakes you can make in influencer marketing. And I think in like this kind of political correct age of and social outrage that there is right now, a brand has to be very careful who they work with, especially with their ambassadors, their influencers, because there are people out there who spend every waking hour looking to undermine a brand, or specifically an influencer who's posting like, I love this teeth whitening light. And then, they go back, years and years ago where, that influencer made a tweet that just is undermining that brand, and they like to post it, and that can actually ruin a brand's perception online quickly.
And I think that's a lot of our responsibility as marketers, as leading, the vast amount of programming that Edelman had, or MSL, Weber before that. It's our responsibility to do our research and to really look at the influencers we're presenting and to develop relationships. I've been working with influencers since 2005. A lot of them were babies when I first met them, and now they're, superstars, and we laugh and I cry over how much they now charge for what they used to, willingly include as a value add. But it's that, it's that trust that if I'm bringing you something, I know you, and I think that this would really work. And I can say that with the authenticity that I have and the relationship I've built with them, that I'm not just using them, really, to hawk a product, or because my client really thinks you'll be great. I'm selecting the influencers, and we'll talk about this in a minute, with a slew of data, but also because if you work in this space, you have to know this space, and you have to know the creators, and you have to, really get to know their style, their aesthetic, the brands they like, their interests, and how they come to market. So that with your experience and the relationships you already have, with the connections you made with these influencers and kind of putting your strategy together, I think that's a really, really winning combination to put together relevant and resonant programming.
Yeah, I think a big part of this business is being a fan of the creators that you're working with. I think in any of the pitches I've done where we felt really good coming out of we've won are the times when, one, we're really excited about the brand we're pitching or the brand we hope to work for, but really when we're doing influencer marketing or content that we're huge fans of the people we're working with. We've known them, we trust them. We think they're perfect for this brand because we've worked with, we know like their background. I think where things get dicey is when a brand wants to work with, they come to you with a certain person in mind, and you're like, okay, so why do you think she'll sell, 10,000 units? And she's like, well, she's really hot, and I think she's gonna do well. And it's like, okay, but this is like kitty litter, so I'm not really sure why that's gonna work.
She doesn't have a cat.
She's like, no, that's gonna be great. She's gonna be in a bikini on the beach with kitty litter. I'm like, I don't think you need kitty litter on the beach, but okay, we'll see what we can do here. And I think that's kind of goes back to the inauthenticity of social. Is you got to be careful, and that's our job, is to let our clients know, or potential clients, like, I don't think this is the right way to go, but to say it in a way that doesn't piss them off.
Do you want to add something?
No, I was just going to say, continuing to follow them over a long period of time too.
Yeah.
There are some people that I've worked with that I follow them only when that campaign is going, and then I kind of let them go. But I think you need to follow people for a long period of time too, and really build a relationship with them.
Yeah, I think that in terms of the influencers and making sure that they're the right storyteller and that their feed is a match and they really embody the brand's core essence, how do we tackle, let's say we found the perfect influencer, but the brand, really wants extensive control over that content, and the guidelines are, it's a 20-page deck, and the do's and don'ts become so crazy that influencers really struggle, and there's rounds and rounds of reshoots. So how do you counsel, we have the authenticity on the influencer side. How about that content creation and storytelling side of it? And Scott, you want to take that one?
Yeah, that's the bane of my existence each and every day. So I've worked with a number of clients, some in the same spaces, some being like very open, saying, here's the product, we love this person, we trust them, you guys know what you're doing, we look forward to round one revisions. And I have some brands who, before we even get to getting the product mailed to them, they're giving us, we want to see a script, we want to see, this and that. We have 16 talking points that they must make, and really that's my advice, jokingly, sometimes not jokingly, is you should just make an ad. This is what you should do. You should just get some actors and make an ad, because no influencer who's is worth anything is actually going to agree to this unless they're a huge fan of this brand. And I think what comes down to that, and especially on the PR side, is relationship building. And I think what you have to do is really come to the brand with a concept that you believe in, that you can sell to them. You need to work with the influencer to really kind of like get their point of view, communicate that with the brand. If it means getting the brand and the talent on the phone or in the meeting in the room to discuss, their vision versus what the brand's vision is. I think there's a number of ways you can really manage it. But it is also my job to kind of step in and realize when a brand is kind of overstepping what they want, and to remind them that you're not buying a person just so you can reach their audience. You're buying their authenticity, and you're trying to build brand advocacy on a platform that's incredibly crowded. So if this is not authentic and they're not being true to themselves, people are going to see through it. I think 5 years ago you could get away with it, but nowadays, Gen Z is, quite frankly, they're the smartest, most savvy social people out there, and they can spot an ad a mile away.
And it's not only our clients and the brands that we're working with, it's also our creative teams. I'm looking at Doug back there, and Shanna will remember too, Abby as well, where we had this great idea for this product, and it was focused on the morning time. And if you have this product in the morning, you can do 9 things that you never would have been able to do because you'll have enough energy and protein in your system in order to do it. And we wanted one of the posts to be a grid, of 9 shots in one, post, so that you could see all the 9 things in the tiny little squares on Instagram. And that was the creative idea. And we were like, yeah, that's gonna work. And I was like, I don't know, that's actually gonna fly. And when the team at Open Influence started doing influencer outreach, the influencers were like, yeah, no, I don't post that. So it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb if we do it. So we then had the job I had the nice job of going back to my creative team and being like, yeah, the idea that you really loved and sold into the clients was so creative. Yeah, the influencers don't wanna do it because it's not gonna resonate. It's gonna look like it's just a really unnatural post, and the shots are gonna be so small. So can we, iterate and kind of ebb from the original strategy and plan? And it took a while, but when we actually said, okay, well, these 6 influencers who you actually adore won't do it, they were like, okay, let's iterate. This is digital content. This isn't, when I first got into advertising in the 2000, I was working in print, and you needed, 3-4 month lead time to actually do anything. You can change captions once they're live. You can change images, pretty quickly if you just, reshoot. This isn't, you don't need 3 months lead in order to do something, unless it involves travel, so that's something different. But, we have to be iterative, and we have to ebb and flow and really have the creative and the co-creation and all the inputs kind of mix into this beautiful kind of center point in order for it to work.
Yeah, I was just going to add that similar client had a digital ad that was about unbagging. It was a hotel. They had all these cool things because it's a suite. You could bring more stuff, stay longer. They wanted the influencers to do that. We went out. The influencers they wanted to work with all said, no, I don't do that. That's weird. Why would I do that? It's kind of like the Sex and the City thing where she pulls out the weird fruit, but no, thank you. So going back to the client, typically I find that happens in those first year or two when a client is new to influencer marketing, or that team, the social digital team, the PR team, they're all learning to work together and hold each other's hands because they each own a piece of the pie, and no one wholly owns the influencer space because they all need it for something different. And so once you get that team humming and they understand it, we usually come back and say, this is about storytelling, and it isn't a one-size-fits-all. Each influencer can't just say the same thing. We have to meet them where they are, so we have to find what the story is for that influencer. I worked on the Holiday Inn brand for a number of years. That's all about changing perceptions. Everyone knows it, doesn't think very highly of the brand. So we had to really up-level what that storytelling is and find a unique way to bring the hotel into that space. One woman had a very difficult time conceiving, She adopted 2 lovely African-American girls. She is now in the adoption space. She has this super, super niche. Then she ends up finding out that she's pregnant. She's gonna have a baby. So we've been following her and working with her for a long time. She said, you know what, Amy? I wanna bring my daughter to New Orleans, where I know her birth mother is from. So that's our story. Our story is she's gonna go to New Orleans. She's gonna tell a story about bringing her daughter back to this city where her birth mother is from, and she's gonna stay at a really cool Holiday Inn, and we're gonna weave our story and have that moment for that family happen around that pool and happen over breakfast there. So each individual influencer has their own story, and that's for us to go back to the brand and say, here's what we're gonna do with each of these individuals. It's not, they're all gonna go to one place and they're all gonna do the same thing. They're gonna do the same thing, but it's gonna have a different story and it's gonna have a different location. And that, over time, continuing to come back and show them the success of that content and how happy the influencers are and how well it performs and how much they want to work with us again and how much they want to be our advocate, even when it's not, when they're under contract with us, proved the point and got us into a better place about them being so wanting to control everything.
Yeah, I want to just spend the last few minutes of this. I think the authenticity, the relationships, the storytelling, more and more we're shifting to a space where there is a very large emphasis on data. I know at Open Influence we call ourselves data obsessed. We're constantly pulling data in the upfront of the campaign, when we find influencers during the campaign to track progress, and of course the results. So would love to just dive into how you guys are seeing. I know PR is not a naturally data-driven industry, and that's really where that convergence of marketing and PR and digital strategy are coming together with these strategies. So Jenny, if you want to kick us off a little bit on how you guys are leveraging data with your influencer strategies.
Sure. So my mission in life, other than raising 3 great kids, is to abolish CPM as the only measure for a successful influencer program.
How many impressions do I get?
Sorry, what's that CPM? Is it total reach, potential reach? Is it actual reach? Let's not talk about it anymore. So, I mean, the kids thing is really, but this is really important too. Data is everything. So, gone are the days of that linear strategy where brand story and your audience, and then you figure out the strategy, and then you pick your influencers, and then you develop content, and then you measure it at the end. Measurement comes right at the beginning. So, that's data, setting the data. What are we hoping to achieve? What are the KPIs? How are we gonna do it? Are we setting up the program in the right way in order to show measurable results? But also on the flip side of it, from influencer specific, we have access to so much data now that we never ever had before. It's almost funny if I think about the influencer programming I did in 2006. Like, who are these people? And they'd tell me, yeah, I'm this person. I had no data about anything, but the programming was okay. Nowadays, we know who they are, their demographic, their brand interests, the partnerships they've already done, who their audience is, who they connect with, the interests of the audience, the demographics of the audience, the locations of them, and we know patterns. When engagement, which is very important in influencer marketing instead of CPM, when engagement spikes, right? Like if influencer A talks about this, we see their audience start to get really excited. If it's photo, if it's this channel versus this channel. All this data that we have now, it's helping us be smarter. You have to load up the front of your kind of strategic development, plan with data. Figure out, what are we trying to do? Who do we want to do it with? Are they the right people? So that when you're presenting to the brand, these influencers, you've already got all that. So they're just, the only thing the brand can say is, okay, I love them. They feel right. And if you're picking the right influencers, you're doing your due diligence, if you're vetting them with all the criteria that you need to, which we also now have amazing tools and data to help us get there, you're gonna put together a way more strategic and impactful program so that the clients that you have and the brands that you're working with are gonna keep coming back and wanna do more influencer marketing because it's working. It's working in the right way we're pulling the right levers and we're measuring things in the right way to affect, oftentimes now they're MMX. Like, it's not just one slide as, an add-on to a program where influencer marketing used to be. It's now, at the core, it's a legitimate part of their marketing budget or their comms budget, depending on which clients you're talking to, and it's a part of the piece of the puzzle. So data is everything now, and measurement.
And I'm sure that trend will only continue. We're seeing it play a bigger and bigger role, but also to go back to the beginning, it's that relationship building, that storytelling, the art and the science of it all. We were having such a great time up here. I hate to cut us short, but I'm getting signaled. We have our next panel, so thank you all so much for taking the time. Thank you.
Thank you.